Hey everybody, it's Judy, and today is day 3 of our 5-day challenge of going from burned out to fired up. And I have my co-pilot today, Bijou. She wanted to be sitting on my lap today to help me, so you may see her popping in from time to time. So before I forget, make sure that you are liking and sharing this with your friends, with those other businesswomen that are also burned out, overcommitted, and really want to break that cycle of overcommitment, burnout, and blame, right? So have that gift. Give this gift of the information, of the challenge with them. They can join us. It's not too late. It's anybody's game in terms of who wins the grand prize. So invite, like, and share, and I would greatly appreciate that, and I think they would appreciate it too. So with that said, today's topic, let's jump right in. Today's topic is make more self-honoring choices. So what is that all about, right? So we want to be able to build more respect for your time, your effort, and your energy, right? Because sometimes when people to hear the words self-honoring choices, like, oh, that sounds like selfish. And I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm talking about being self-aware, and I'm also talking about honor, right? Honoring choices. So when we talk about honor, it's having a high regard, having high respect. So think about how, on a scale from 1 to 10, give me a sense as to, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much are you honoring yourself? 10 being high and 1 being low. 1 to 10, right? You can put it in the note box down below, or you can just keep that number to yourself. It's okay. Just have a mental note of when it comes to honoring yourself and putting yourself first. And I'm not saying that you ignore responsibilities or you ignore duties and things that are important to you, like taking care of children and having those types of responsibilities. I'm not saying ignore them, but how much do you actually hold yourself in high regard? That's the honoring piece. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. So that's one result that we're going to have. The other one is really letting go of the selfish syndrome. That's what I call it, the selfish syndrome. People feel like, oh my gosh, I can't be selfish. I can't possibly think about myself. I have so many things to do. So many people are expecting me, and they're holding me accountable to help them, right? People are feeling supported by you, and that they have expectations for your support. And I hear you, but we do want to address that feeling as though we're being selfish just by taking care of our own personal needs. I remember there's that saying of, you have, your cup runneth over. When you can come from that space, when your cup is already full, it's much easier to give to someone other than having a totally empty cup, right? You want a full cup, because from that place, we aren't giving from resentment. When we have an empty cup and we're trying to give to somebody else, tell me if I'm speaking the truth here, ladies, but it usually feels resentful, or it feels like we're over giving, and we're giving too much, and it takes so much effort in order to help people, right? So that's goal number 3 that we're going to be talking about today. And number 3 is the discernment, is having discernment, having criteria, and being able to have, awesome tools to think about what is my criteria for having these areas in my life be full? What does full mean, right? And we'll take a look at a structure that will be able to that is going to be able to help you. There's an awesome tool that I'm going to be giving you shortly. So let's dig right in. Those are our 3 goals that we're going to be able to build the highest respect and regard for you, your time, and your efforts. Number 2, that you are going to be letting go of the selfish syndrome, if you have any of that selfish syndrome type of thinking, so that you can really own your worth. And number 3, that you can have discernment and criteria for your time, your effort, and your energy. So as we dive in, I want to mention too that there's a link. There is a link, right over there. I always forget which way to point. There is a link right below that is going to be able to tell you how to download. There is a handout. Here's the handout. It's called the 4 quadrants of your intentional wonderful day. So the 4 quadrants of your intentional wonderful day. You're going to be using this, and we're going to be talking about this today. But what I want you to know is that, the problem is that we do so much people pleasing, right? I already talked about that a little bit, but let me revisit it. We do so much people pleasing. We think that that is what we should be doing because a lot of us were conditioned that, we should serve other people. We shouldn't be selfish and we should always be helping people. Well, I feel that that is a really great leadership skill, but we overuse it as a society, as a gender, as a country. There's a lot of us that will overuse that skill to our own detriment. And that falls into the people-pleasing bucket. So I'm not saying that you don't want to, you should totally, stop trying to support other people and be helpful and please others. I'm not saying that you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. No. What I'm saying is that you want to make sure that you're not overusing that skill, that people-pleasing skill, and that you have other tools in your toolbox like the word no. And we're going to talk about a structure that'll help you get more clarity around that. And I think, too, that when we are doing the people-pleasing, oftentimes we're doing it to get external approval. We're getting external security. We're looking outside of ourselves for that type of reassurance. And that's where I think we actually run into trouble. I think that genesis, if we're looking outside of ourselves for what we can internally give to ourselves, and we're not giving it to ourselves, that's where we run into trouble. That's where our people-pleasing gets overused. We're using it for a purpose to fill a hole or fill a need that we aren't giving ourselves. So think of this particular scenario of having a bucket. So if you have a bucket and it's called self-worth and it has a bunch of holes in it and you're doing a bunch of people-pleasing to fill the bucket, number one, you're never going to fill the bucket because it's got all those holes. So we've got to think about how we're going to plug up those holes, and that is by coming from a place of owning our own self-worth. So how are we going to do that? One of the solutions that I have is to make those self-honoring choices. Think of how that our decisions and our choices are impacting us, and how are we doing things? Here's a great question. So write this down if you haven't already started taking notes. Ask the question to yourself, am I doing this because I want to? Or am I doing this because I think I have to? Because if I don't, I'll get ... fill in the blank. Some people are like, if I don't, I'll get rejected, or I won't get respect, or I won't get approval, or I won't have security. I won't feel connection with other people if I don't do X, Y, Z. So that's how you learn to discern what are you doing, what are you making that choice for? Why are you making that choice? Right? What is that? What is the root cause, or what is the root what's the root purpose of making that choice? Be purposeful. That's why this activity today is called your 4 quadrants of your intentional wonderful day, because I want you to be intentional. I want you to make self-honoring choices. And you're usually not making self-honoring choices if you're not intentional. We need to actually slow down, be mindful, be intentional, and set intentions. For those of you who work with me, know that I really do love to set intentions for when our coaching calls start, because it really sets the stage for us to be making clear decisions and it comes from a place of knowing and an internal sense of strength. So let me just ask too, let me pause here because I tend to forget to pause. So if you're here, let me know you're here and say hi, but also let me know if you have any questions. And if you don't have any questions, just say hello. That's all. Okay. So when we think about how we are making self-honoring choices, there's only so many hours in the day, right? So let's deal with the finite of what we have. So as I said in the beginning, I'm not expecting you to give up all your responsibilities and say, I'm not doing those responsibilities. I'm going to make all these self-honoring choices. No. That's not what I'm saying. So the structure that you're going to receive, and here it is. This is what it looks like, the 4 quadrants. And I've actually adapted this from Jesse Itzler. I don't know if any of you know who Jesse Itzler is. He is an author as well as the husband of the woman who created Spanx. So anyway, what I learned from him is that there is this awesome quadrant process that you can go through to really start to make great self-honoring choices. Start here. Start with 4 quadrants, okay? So the first quadrant is sleep, right? How many hours a day are you going to get sleep? Then it goes into work. Then it goes into self. And then it goes into time with others. So if you're looking at the sleep quadrant, I'm going to put this up there. Hopefully you can read this. There we go. I think you can read it now. Right? You really want to keep it simple. And you want to determine how many hours for each task, right? Sleep, work, self, and others. And then you also want to set guidelines for your best day by quadrant, right? By your most beautiful day. So when I did this, I created within each one of the quadrants some criteria. So one of the ways of looking at busting the selfish syndrome mentality is really honoring the fact that you only have 24 hours in a day and 4 quadrants. So if you fit your life into that scenario, if you're thinking about life in that way, for me, sleep is 7 to 8 hours a day. So when you get this worksheet, you're going to be able to fill these out. But basically, the first quadrant is sleep. So I say, okay, for me to really feel refreshed and recharged, I need to have 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Now, I need to have them continuously. And I also need to start by 10 o'clock, 10:30 the latest. If I get to sleep later than 10:30, I tend to pay for it in the next morning when I wake up. I don't feel as refreshed. So what I do is I write down criteria. So in my sleep quadrant, I say 7 to 8 hours. Sleep, I don't stay up. I stop staying up past 10 p.m. I stop caffeine after 2 p.m. I start consistently waking up at 6 a.m. So I set myself up for success. So do any of those sound selfish to you? No, right? So being able to set these criteria and set clear guidelines for yourself, you're making self-honoring choices and you're not putting anything on anyone else, right? You're not expecting other people to do anything other than to honor the fact that these are your guidelines and these are your choices. And here's the other thing. People will treat you the way you train them to treat you. So if you're setting clear guidelines and you have clear agreements about how you want to live your life and what's important to you to feel refreshed and recharged, people will honor that when it comes from a place of honor. Now, if you're wishy-washy and you have a bucket full of holes and it's kind of leaky and you're like, well, I'll do this, I'll do that, people notice that too. They pick up on that leaky energy, right? So that's my sleep quadrant. So sleep, 7 to 8 hours. Work is 8 to 9 hours. I tend to like to work. I like it. 8 to 9 hours a day. I think that's fair. And I do that Monday to Friday. I take Saturday and Sunday off, most of Sunday. Sometimes I work a little bit on Sunday. But here's where I'm leaky, right? So I actually do work a little bit on Sundays. Now, the truth be told, I don't always work a full Friday. So that's how I make it up in my mind of, you know what, I work a half a day on Friday. I try to end by 1:00. And then on Sunday, I work a few hours in the evening to get some things kicked off for the week so that I feel that I'm on my game as soon as I wake up Monday morning. So work is 8 to 9 hours, Monday to Friday, with a tweak around Friday half day and Sunday a few hours. I stop working on Saturdays. Like Saturdays is my sacred day. I really try not to make any plans with anybody. It's my day. It's something that I do for myself. I focus on, 1 to 2 goals to complete each day. When I'm thinking about, my work day, I focus on 1 to 2 key things each day that I'm going to nail. I'm just going to do them until they're done. So that some days, if I have to work more than 9 hours, I think about that, but I really try to make sure that I'm done within those 9 hours of time. And I also pick goals that are doable. Those chunks are doable within 8 to 9 hours. And I have 2 flex time days the 3rd week of every month. So that means that there are 2 days that I take off the 3rd week of every month for my time. For me to just, go to the beach for a couple of days, right? Living in Southern California, I get to do that. Or if I want to go visit a friend and have a long weekend, I'll take those 2 days off and do that too. Now, the third quadrant, is self. So those hours are everything that you do to, whether it's exercise, right? So I have, daily yoga. I do my daily yoga practice every morning. That takes me about 45 minutes. And then I also have my gym time, which is 3 times a week. So I try to keep that religious. That is definitely my, time that I really keep sacred, because that's important to my health. It's important to my stress level. And part of what I do is walking my talk is keeping boundaries. Right? This whole process that I'm giving you is helping you create boundaries that are self-honoring, that set you up for success and set you up for having the best, most wonderful day possible. So being intentional with self too also means, my eating choices. What is it that I'm putting into my body? So I make sure that, my diet is very specific around nutrition. And I try to be very conscious of how I'm feeding my body every day, and I take specific time. So that within the 3.5 hours every day, it's how I nourish my body, how I exercise my body, how I have a daily spiritual practice. So these are things that I'm doing every day. Now, the other bucket is others. It's 3.5 hours a day. So that's my time. It's still my time, but it's my time that I'm connecting with others. I am serving others. And, that is my criteria for those 3.5 hours, though, is that it's got to be quality people that I'm spending my time with. So some of my criteria is I stop energy vampires like negative people. And those people, those are those people that they're always asking you for advice, or they always want you to listen to them, but the conversation is always out of balance. It's more about them than it is about you. When you start talking about you, then they tune out and they start, flipping the conversation back around about them again. Those are the types of people that I have done a really good job of taking those people out, right? Those are people that don't go into that other time. It's also quality relationships. I try every day to connect with different friends, and I have a cadre of friends that I like to be the one that initiates contact, because they will reciprocate, right? So reciprocity is also a really important criteria for me when it comes to the people that I include in the others category. There needs to be a give and take kind of a situation. So that's keeping connection in person with relationships that have reciprocity and positivity, right? So that's how I really define those times in that relationship, those relationships. And it can be doing anything. It could be I was at a comedy club last night for Taboo Tales. It's a bunch of people that read their stories that are really awesome. We do it on stage every once or twice a year. I did it last year, and I was actually volunteering last night. So that was my other time last night. I gave to the community, and I was there for other people that are writers that are willing to get up on stage and tell their taboo tales. So that's how I spend my other time. It could also be going to the movies, having birthday parties, dinners out with friends, or drinks, or dates, or whatever. So that's what I have in my others category. Those are those sacred relationships, whether they're friendships, lovers, family, extended family. That's what that goes in. But I have a certain criteria for the type of people that I like to spend time with. Now, are there times that there are people that sneak in or that are part of a group that maybe are not in alignment with that criteria? Absolutely. I can deal with that. I can probably talk to just about anybody, but I also am clear on my boundaries in terms of how I want to have a conversation or how I want to relate to those people. So today is really all about making choices about your self-honoring choices. How are you choosing to invite people into your life? How are you choosing to take care of your body and your sleep and yourself? What is your time, as well as work? How many hours a day are you spending on work? So with that said, let me tell you a quick story, because I've actually used this with a client. We're going to call her Monique. And Monique wanted her mojo back. That was originally why we were working together. And what was so great is that we set up a criteria for each one of these quadrants. And as an entrepreneur, she had an idea of what her ideal client was. So even when we looked at her work quadrant, she was also working, 8 to 9 hours a day. And she wanted to make sure that she was working with her ideal clients. So we made a criteria of the type of clients that she wanted to work with. And she actually got to a point where she was turning down work with people that she didn't want to work with. And she would turn it down in such a graceful way that she would offer other friends and refer other people, refer them to freelancers or to other people that could serve their needs, when she didn't want to actually work with those types of clients, and they didn't fit her ideal client. And the other thing that we did for her with the quadrants of times with others is she had an ideal profile for her friends and family and her social network, because being social and socializing and entertaining was just something that just lit her up. It just really gave her such great pleasure. So we created that time frame of making sure that these were people that were the quality relationships. It made it so much easier for her to be able to discern which opportunities she wanted to say yes to and which invitations she wanted to decline, and who she wanted to invite to her dinner parties. And again, she was quite the entertainer. She has quite a skill in that area. And when it came to her self-time, that was her mojo time. That was all about her creativity, her being able to write and read and be able to really dive into what was so important to her, what filled her up. So these 4 quadrants really helped her make a huge shift in the quality of her relationships, the quality of the clients that she was serving and attracting, the sleep that she was getting. She was waking up so much more fresh and alive and having more mojo. That was part of the magic of the mojo. And it also decreased any resentment that she had, any blame that she was doing on herself of being selfish or, not doing enough for other people, right? It really broke that habit of the selfish syndrome for her. So some of you may be saying, yeah, well, it's really hard for me to set these limits. And you know what? I get that. And I'll also say to you, you can always work with an accountability partner. And if some of you are saying, well, I don't have an accountability partner, how am I going to find one? I don't know anybody that would do that. Well, this opportunity in this community is actually for you. You can post you can actually put a post in this group and ask if anybody else is looking for an accountability partner, and totally trust that the right person will show up for you. And the other thing is, obviously, you can always book a call with me to talk to me about any ways that I can support you. But the other thing is, just if you're looking at, how you can work first with this quadrant and holding yourself accountable. Oops, how do I make this so that you can see it? There we go. If you're working first with this worksheet, then you work up to an accountability partner. And if you're really serious that you really want to do this and you really want to be self-honoring, again, you can always book a call with me. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. You can go to my website and actually book a 30-minute call. But here's the thing. It's all up to you in terms of, are you ready to make that choice? Are you ready to step into being self-honoring and holding yourself with high self-respect and high regard, and own your value and your worth and not have to prove your worth? And that's another thing we talked a little bit about yesterday. I brought up the ideal woman, right? I have an inner critic that I call the ideal woman. And the ideal woman tends to tell me sometimes that I have to prove myself. And that's a common thing among a lot of women, that we think that we have to prove ourselves. And I have learned, and so have my clients, that when you stand in owning your value and not proving your worth, it's a key distinction. But when you own your value and really have high self-worth, you'd be amazed at how different people start treating you because they see how you treat yourself. And it also gives you that strong core to make those self-honoring choices. And again, this quadrant exercise, as simple as this is, it's very easy to say, you know what, I've actually dedicated that I've made this commitment to myself that I'm going to go to bed by 10 o'clock every night. So I would love to go out with you. As long as I'm home by 10, the latest 10:30, I'd be more than happy to do it. But during the week, that is, just a promise that I've made to myself, right? It makes it much easier when you have a very clear agreement with yourself that you can share it with other people. And that's what I want to drive home. So if there's anything that you remember out of today, it's having 4 quadrants, having criteria, having clear agreements with yourself that you can share with others, right? And break that selfish syndrome thinking. This is not about being selfish. When we are people pleasing, we are overusing a skill of being helpful. So while every leader has certain qualities and certain skills that work for them, when you overuse them, it becomes a liability. So I'm all about helping you stay with those tools and those skills that you have that really serve you and bring out the best you that's possible. And also being very careful and being very discerning when you're not to use or overuse certain skills. And that means that you're not being selfish. You're really filling your cup first so that you can help others, and not from a place of blame or resentment. Okay, so if there is any questions, please pop in and send me a question, say hello. I'd love to see who's here. And I'm going to post in the box. Oh, it's over there. I'm going to post in the box the link in order to get this free download, because this worksheet is super awesome. And it's going to be the foundation for you to be able to make those self-honoring choices. So I wish you an amazing day. If you have any questions and you're watching this late, no problem. Just put your questions in the box below, and I will try to do my very, very best to answer them within 24 hours. And I wish you going from stressed out to fired up with this content, with this information, and supporting you and being able to do that. So I hope we achieved that goal for you today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Oh, and don't forget, we have our daily challenge. Our daily challenge is to post a photo that represents a golden moment for you today. What is your golden moment for today, and what does that mean? What does a golden moment mean? Well, if you're making self-honoring choices, or you're just going through life being very intentional, right? Because this is called the 4 quadrants of your intentional, wonderful day. If you're having an intentional, wonderful day, you are walking around and you're noticing, you're smelling the roses, you're noticing people smiling at you, you're noticing a cute dog or something like that. Whatever it is, whatever that golden moment for you, and it could have just been, looking up at the sun and feeling, the warmth of the sun. Just post any picture that represents a golden moment for you, where you actually intentionally felt good, felt happy, took a deep breath, and just was able to appreciate the moment and are present in the moment. That can be your golden moment. Or a golden moment could be that you won the lottery. I hope that happens to some of you. But whatever that golden moment is for you, maybe you got a surprise from a friend, maybe you got a great letter in the mail, whatever it is. Before tomorrow, right? Before tomorrow's Facebook Live, post in the box into our Facebook group a picture of something that made you happy today, made you smile, gave you that golden happy feeling inside. And that's what I mean by your golden moment. So I'm going to be posting mine, and I invite you to post yours. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.